Early morning, late in 2020, Oranga Tamariki staff removed children from their Home for Life placement.
Children are not objects, they're not parcels that we can move around.
The same child protection agency that told the Tamariki 2.5 years earlier they would never have to move again, moved them. Broken promises.
Broken promises.
I call it the reverse uplift.
Yes. What will this do to those children?
Do you think this is just a one-off? You're shaking your head.
It's endemic.
But then we're in really big trouble.
Yep, we are.
The Children's Minister has ordered an immediate halt to reverse uplifts.
That's when children in state care are taken away from their foster parents and placed back with whānau.
Newsroom published an investigation into Tamariki being re-uplifted from homes they were told would be their forever home. The Minister for Children was furious.
That story stopped all reverse uplifts in their tracks. Now, 18 months on, the Ombudsman investigation into that same case. The findings crushing for our Child Protection Agency.
What the Ombudsman uncovered in this case is serious. It's bad. It's malpractice. It's abuse of power.
In a damning report, the Chief Ombudsman, Peter Boshier, found that Oranga Tamariki failed to provide highly relevant information to the family court. The Ombudsman investigation reveals that the agency presented misleading evidence, out of context and unbalanced information to the courts, and statements he describes as clearly wrong.
He has raised some extremely serious issues.
Nicola Atwell is an associate professor at Otago University's School of Social Sciences. She came to academia after a long career as a social worker.
Part of the reason that this report is so damning is that there actually have not been very many external reports that are case-based. A lot of the external reviews of Oranga Tamariki are about the organisation as a whole.
Which begs the question, when there is a forensic look at it, the Ombudsman's done it, we've done it, it doesn't look good.
No.
Now, do you think this is just a one-off? You're shaking your head.
It's endemic.
But then we're in really big trouble.
Yep, we are.
It was late in 2020 that we investigated the case of Tamariki being removed from their Pākehā foster carers after 2.5 years. They were taken to live with extended whānau. It was approved by the family court and coincided with Oranga Tamariki implementing a policy referred to as 7AA.
Section 7AA places responsibility to ensure that the Treaty of Waitangi underpins the activities of Oranga Tamariki. So that is the obligation to work in partnership with iwi and have a cultural lens on how we define things like care and protection.
And in this case, and correct me if I'm wrong, was that, first and foremost, Māori children need to be with whānau, hapu and iwi.
Yeah.
And the issue with this case was that didn't happen. They went to non-Māori caregivers, stayed there for a substantial amount of time, kids that were all brothers and sisters, and then were taken as soon as 7AA came along.
Yeah. So that, and again, that's what I've referred to as ideologically driven practice, that people chose to interpret 7AA as meaning no Māori children should remain with Pākehā. And many Māori who've been through the care system believe that and believe it very strongly. But it's one thing to have that belief, and it's another thing to have a kind of knee-jerk reaction, which results in further trauma to children.
Which is what you think's happened in this case?
Which I think is what happened in this case.
The first uplift of these children was in 2016 from their birth parents. Oranga Tamariki reports say they had been punched by their father and exposed to domestic violence. According to the agency, none of the children's whānau was available to take them in, nor any Māori family. For 17 months they lived with temporary caregivers before meeting their future foster mother.
I started a career and I stopped it to look after them.
Nobody wanted them. They're going to split these kids up. We took them to keep them together.
She and her husband agreed to take them under a permanent care arrangement known as Home for Life, which is what it sounds like, a home for life. The couple had other children and were experienced caregivers. It was a real coup for social workers to get all the siblings under one roof. Then the children's birth mother had another child, which Oranga Tamariki uplifted the moment it was born. The couple were asked by Oranga Tamariki to take the newborn as well. They agreed and set about giving them all the best life possible.
A home for life, you know. This was the last time, and we made that clear to them. We thought it was forever.
I'm an absolute believer that Māori children, where possible, need to be placed with the extended whānau, but there are some times when that can't happen. Now, I got involved with the case. I've read a lot of the files. These children have been placed with this couple for over 2.5 years. They were traumatised when they got them, and now 2.5 years later we just arrived. We're going to take you away, you children. Where's the consideration of the trauma of doing that? Because I think that's what's missing from this whole picture. What will this do to those children?
We interviewed Mark Solomon around the time the Tamariki were uplifted from the foster family. He was the former chairman of Ngāi Tahu Council for 18 years.
Well, it'd be fair to say that I've publicly stated quite a few times that Oranga Tamariki was set up to protect children from harm and abuse. But the problem is, to achieve that, they act in a harmful, abusive manner.
That's a big statement.
Well, I'm making the statement.
So you don't think those children should have been removed?
No, not after 2.5 years with this family. And you know as well as I do from interviewing those couple, there's some pretty underhanded processes followed by the Oranga Tamariki staff and the way they've done this. You know, these children are for life. This is a home for life for them. They made those statements.
Broken promises.
Broken promises. So, you know, with all due respects, is it any different in destroying a Pākehā family or destroying a Māori family? In the way that you handle these things. I think they've handled it abysmally.
The foster couple put in a formal complaint to the Ombudsman, claiming prejudice, bullying, misleading statements, and that unsubstantiated allegations had been submitted to court, that Oranga Tamariki distorted facts to fit an agenda in order to transfer the children to newfound whānau.
He's clearly found that there was misleading information. I mean, he is a former family court chief judge.
The Chief Ombudsman Peter Boshier's findings back up many of the allegations made by the foster carers, including that misleading information had been presented to the courts.
I think that one of the things he's reacting to is the dawning realisation that the judiciary has been monkeyed around with, and judges do not take kindly to that.
As well as misleading evidence and unbalanced information submitted to court, he talks about the evidence being left out, saying this omission demonstrated a fundamental lack of balance in the information provided to the court that underpinned its decision to remove the children from their home for life.
The courts are being given information that has been, for want of a better word, edited to try and increase the chance of an outcome.
Selective information.
Yeah.
That's what he found.
Yeah, was selective information. But for me, this highlights a really important issue, and that is that the social workers seem to have set themselves up as judge and jury by being selective about what went to the court.
That's dangerous.
That's extremely dangerous. So the judge's decision couldn't be the best decision that it could be because he didn't have all of the information and he didn't have unbiased information.
But that's what led to the uplift.
Yeah, that's right. So the judge makes a very important decision, and what this report clearly identifies is that the decision was based on misleading and incomplete information. It wasn't a balanced account. So essentially, social workers were influencing the outcome by being selective.
Have they lied?
I don't think they blatantly lied. I think they have convinced themselves of the truth of their own subjective judgment, and they've failed to recognise that that's all it is, that took things out of context, that again justified
uplifting the children.
Yeah.
But they're all in it together.
Well, that's why I say it's a systemic issue, because you end up with creating a shared reality that you then reinforce, which perpetuates and allows these practices to carry on.
And what's happened in this case.
Yeah, and that's exactly the issue that needs to be addressed.
The Ombudsman has addressed this by recommending Oranga Tamariki make sure all documents being submitted to the family court are reviewed at an appropriate level before being filed. But most significantly, Oranga Tamariki has agreed to review past reverse uplifts across the whole country.
He says in the report that the CE has agreed that they need to be doing file reviews of cases where children have been moved.
That is huge, isn't it?
It's huge. It's a really major undertaking.
That they're going to file review all children who have been moved under this, what we call or term the reverse uplift process, which is taking Māori children who were with foster carers who were Pākehā or non-kin.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I don't know the numbers, but again, from my association with Caring Families Aotearoa, we're talking a significant number.
For the tamariki at the centre of this case, the Ombudsman has recommended a comprehensive reassessment of the current placement for each child as soon as possible, including an analysis of their express preference for their future. In your professional opinion, are they saying there's a chance the kids could be returned to the foster carers that they were uplifted from?
He's obviously being very careful that it needs to be reviewed. If it's an open review, then
anything's possible.
Anything's possible.
Who should be doing that assessment?
Well, that's a vexed question. My preference would always be a child psychotherapist.
Are you putting yourself forward to do it? Because it's been suggested to me that they're going to send in some lawyers for the children.
This is not an assessment that could be done by a lawyer for child. With all due respect to lawyers for children, they do not have the depth of training for a situation that is complex as this. This would need to be someone who was very strong in terms of their understanding of the impact of trauma on children, had a very good knowledge of the importance of attachment, belonging, connection, and also be culturally competent, so that they can balance all of this. So one of the things that's happened in these disputes is that there's been a polarisation of attachment and culture. So you go one way or the other.
Yeah.
They are both important. So you need somebody who can navigate that territory, and it would need to be informed by a pretty realistic understanding of where these children are at and what damage has been done and how we can mitigate that going forward.
I just want to finish off by asking you, Oranga Tamariki have agreed that they're going to apologise to the foster family. Is that enough?
It's a start, but it's not enough.
Look, some quite prominent Māori have described this case to me as being downright disgusting, the way that those people were treated.
It was, I mean, for them it was devastating. It was disrespectful. It was damaging. I mean, words fail me. Like I struggle to understand how people could treat other human beings like that. I mean, even if you had formed the view that the children did need to be moved, there were other ways in which you could have done that, and you certainly could have maintained relationships.
Not frame them up is what they say.
Framing them up and then severing contact. There is no way you can square that away as being in the interests of the children. No amount of cultural connection will take away the children's loss of some people who were important to them. Not only that did they lose them, but the contact was severed. That was unnecessary.